Enlightenment is the attainment of illuminating your reality. When we think about enlightenment, we often think about those sages who have paved the way to help us to gain clarity and understanding as to what the experience of enlightenment is, right? People like Buddha, Jesus. And when we think about those people, we often, though, put them on such a high pedestal that we place ourselves in a position where we think enlightenment is almost impossible. We think enlightenment is something that only a few people can obtain. But in fact, that's the furthest thing from the truth, because enlightenment is our true nature. Enlightenment is really coming into the understanding of who you truly are. And when we think about those sages, really what we should be doing is using them as an example as to what it is that you can achieve, not looking at them as someone you should worship or think is out of reach for you. And so when you think about enlightenment, recognize that enlightenment is the ability to actually go into our truest state, our truest form. And when we think about enlightenment, oftentimes we have to revert to this association or connotation of how we think about the world. And it is important to really break down this word enlightenment in relationship to the world, because as you go down this path of understanding who you are, as you think about the world, as you think about your reality, as you think about you, consciousness and your own self-awareness, you must come to a place of recognizing, one, the contrast of the universe, right? Opposites. They're very important. We often just say, well, I just want to focus on this side of who I am. I just want to focus on consciousness. And I don't want to deal with the darkness. I don't want to deal with ego. I don't want to deal with shadow work or anything of that nature. People tend to avoid the work so that way they can kind of skip through and just obtain and achieve whatever it is that they want to obtain. But the reality is you can't do that. The reality is spirituality, enlightenment, encompasses recognizing the whole person, right? Your whole entire entity in all aspects of who you are, all aspects of what you experienced, defining, redefining all that and everything else. And so as you think about this process and as you think about the world, we often come to a place of recognizing on a very subconscious level that the world is a dark place, right? And many times people take that and they run with it. They take that and run with it in terms of doom and gloom mentality, scarce mentality, feeling like there is nothing to gain in this world and that the world is essentially going to hell. That is because that individual is being led by their ego. They're being led by the very nature, which is correlated and related to the world, right? The physical world and how we see it and how we feel it and how we think the world, quote unquote, works. And oftentimes that is because they are being led by their ego. They are recognizing what the ego looks for. The ego looks for doom and gloom. It looks for negativity. It looks for low vibrational frequencies. It looks for toxic, interactions and relationships. It looks for the drama of life. And so when a person is led by that, then they're going to be in alignment with the low frequency of this physical realm. And now when I say low frequency, I'm not saying it in a negative way or a way that means that it is bad or evil. What I'm saying is when you think about frequencies, it is in relationship to its contrast, right? It is its quote unquote opposite. So when I talk about the physical world, this reality that we're living in and a lot of people identify with, this physical world, your physical body, and this connotation of negativity or the world is doom and gloom, it is in contrast to the topic of enlightenment. It is in relationship to the conversation, the concept of enlightenment. So when you think about the world and you think about all the attachments that comes with it, the materialization that comes with it of just wanting material things and not really recognizing something, beautiful and intangible, but looking at only the tangibles, right? The finite things. Whereas when we're on the spiritual journey, when we are locked in and being led by consciousness, we are acknowledging the infinite things, right? The things that are intangible, the things that are felt, the things that are experienced consciously. And so as you come to this correlation or relationship between these two realities, these two contrasts, I should say, of the quote unquote physical, low vibrational energy of the world and how the world can appear to be doom and gloom if you are being led by the ego versus enlightenment. And enlightenment is really the understanding of illuminating that darkness that we really associate with the physical world. Now, again, darkness isn't evil. It isn't bad per se, right? It isn't something that we should avoid. It is a part of the contrast. And once we embrace that contrast, then we embrace the entirety of who you are and everything that you are creating by way of your consciousness. So you have to come to the understanding that when you are on this path of enlightenment, you are essentially on the path of exposing, bringing light to the darkness by which you are experiencing and living. When you do that, it doesn't make things go away. It just makes it visible for you to see it and get a bird's eye view and get a very advantage point view of what it is that you are experiencing in life, what you're going through, and what's real essentially, right? Because when we are, say, in the darkness, when we are locked in a room and the lights are out and it's pitch black and you can barely see your hand in front of your face, a lot of times your imagination is going forward, wondering what's around you. Are you going to bump into something? Are you going to hit something? Are you going to fall? Right? The room can be completely empty, but yet your imagination is looking to protect itself, right? By way of the ego. And so the ego does have a purpose within this reality that we are starting from when we come to this physical world, right? When we come to this physical world, we're starting from a point of complete darkness, not knowing what it is that we're doing. And the game is to reach enlightenment, to be able to expose the darkness, to shed light on everything that is, so that way we come into an understanding as to who we are. And so your job is essentially to allow the process to take place, walk in the darkness, recognize the darkness, but also recognize that many of the things that you are perceiving in the darkness are made up by the fear-based ego. And when you recognize that, then you begin the process of shedding light on everything that is in the room. Then you begin to come into a clarity as to what is real, what is true, and what is absolute for you, what resonates with you. So enlightenment is the path ultimately of bringing awareness to truth, bringing awareness, exposing what is real, so to speak. Because many times as we walk through life, we are essentially creating out of our fear-based imagination from the ego, the possibilities of things being bad or things going a way by which it doesn't align with what our desires are. And when you are on this path, you have to understand that those things are illusions, right? And distractions, because your ego just wants to be in a comfortable place, which is the place you're currently in, even if you are uncomfortable being in that place, there's a familiarity there, right? There is a comfortability there, like you're comfortable in that uncomfortability. But as you are on this journey, you see, hey, okay, if I expose this for really what it is, and I see that there's really nothing to fear here, to move forward, to walk through and past this phase in my life and move forward into a new phase, if there's nothing to fear, then you simply just take the step. And the process of enlightenment is important in understanding that with the concept of goals and setting goals and making sure that your goals are in alignment with this process, then you have a map, right? You create basically a blueprint, a map, a GPS, so to speak, of where you can begin to take this journey toward enlightenment. And as you are taking this journey toward enlightenment, you get absolutely better at creating and achieving your goals. So that's why enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment, and goals go hand in hand. But it's important to recognize that enlightenment is really exposing the truth of the reality that you are in, the reality that you are creating. And when you are exposing those things, then it gives you, that true agency. It gives you true control. It truly empowers you to move forward in life. And as you move forward in life, it is important to encompass all aspects of who you are, right? Your mind, your body, your spirit, and think about what it is that you want. And as you think about what it is that you want to create for yourself, right? Because enlightenment really exposes the fact that you create your own reality, that you are the individualized expression of God, creating your own universe. When you are in that understanding, then you begin to see, okay, there are aspects of who I am that is designed for me to use in order for me to create this particular life, this particular reality or universe that I want. And so then you start to use things like your mind, right? You start to strategize. You start to come up with things and solutions and ideas that's going to move you along, move your physical body along by way of action to actually create the things that you want. And so then you start to strategize. Then you start to think about processes. Then you start to think about goals. Goals are essentially landmarks along the path of you creating the thing that you want. Goals are essentially, or setting goals essentially, is helping you to gain clarity. It's like visualization, right? But you're visualizing each step as you go. And you're coming into a understanding of where this path may go. And yeah, sometimes the path may change, but if you're clear and you are committed, you've decided what it is that you desire, and you're clear about that reality that you're going to create, then it's not about being attached to each particular goal, but understanding that within your proximity or your ability, your viewpoint, right now in this current moment, you can kind of see where it may go, and you're prepared for it. And that's all that means. When you set goals and you're goal setting, you're preparing yourself for the opportunity to manifest and materialize itself to you. So all you have to do, though, is recognize that this process of enlightenment is really the process of exposing the darkness and exposing all that you wish to gain clarity and understanding about. Because once you gain clarity and understanding about something, then there is no more of it to fear. And therefore, you can just simply walk through in your power and your ownership of you into who you truly are, and thus create the reality that you desire. Thank you so much. Feel free to go to drabundant.com, subscribe to my daily newsletter, and get access to this free ebook, The Power Within. Continue to join me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.